Hagen Nares PLLC, truck wreck and brain injury lawyers, is speaking with Linda Barr, owner of Linda Barr Real Estate. Linda has a wealth of knowledge about the Denver real estate market. What makes Linda stand out is her military relocation professional certification. She specializes in relocation for corporate professionals and military families. We sit down with Linda to ask her about her journey in starting Linda Barr Real Estate, what it's like to be a client of hers, and a training tidbit for the community. Welcome, Linda. I'm so glad that you're here.
Hi, Kaitlin. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm very excited to speak with you because you have a wealth of knowledge with regards to the market. And this isn't just like trends that are going on, but that you really dive deep to figure out what new homeowners or people that are relocating can take advantage of in the market, even with the high interest rates we have now. And so you've really made a point to share information. You have a great YouTube channel that we want you to talk about, but you have really been just a resource to a lot of people. And so I'm really excited to chat about that. But first, what so many people always want to know about, especially with their realtor, is kind of what was their journey getting here? Why should they trust you? Why are you credible? And so we would love for you to talk about your journey to starting Linda Barr Real Estate.
What really got me started in real estate was actually my husband. My husband was really into that. We had just moved here. We're actually from California. So we had just moved to Colorado, didn't really know a lot of people, and he started getting into real estate. He's in the military, so that's what brought us out here. And we had not a great experience with some realtors. So that was kind of a nudge, because at first I was like, I have a realtor. Why do I need to go get my license? Because he was like, hey, maybe this is something we should look into. So really that was one of my big pushes of getting my real estate license, because I did not want someone else to have the experience that we had. And I'm like, dude, I can do this. I bartended for a really, really long time, but growing our family and moving out here, like, that is not something I wanted to continue to do. So I went ahead and got my real estate license. And at first it was kind of just okay, I got my license, now what? And then as I started getting more and more in depth with it, I realized how important being from a military family, the VA process was, which is why the first thing, I had my license less than 2 months, and I went and got my MRP certification, which I talk about that all the time. And it was very important to me to do that because of, again, knowing and understanding that the VA process is completely different. If you go through and listen to lenders, there's so many different programs. You have your first-time home buyers, you have conventional, you have FHA, and all the different things. But VA is actually its own thing, entirely different. And I have seen lenders come in and say, oh, we're totally VA savvy, we know what we're doing, and that is not the case. So I just made it a point right off the get-go to make sure that I got my niche, got my certification in that, and then I also started partnering with lenders who actually knew the process, not only for myself, because we obviously were purchasing with VA loans, and at the time we were first-time home buyers, so we had all these different things, and I did not have the guidance, or I feel like we did not have the guidance that we should have had at the beginning. So now going through that process, I just was like, okay, I really need to figure this out. And then I started, just really diving into it, and that's what really got me on that journey. And another thing I wanted to just say is it's been really awesome as a family perspective too, because not only am I running my own business, I can incorporate my children in it. So I'm a boy mom. I talk about that all the time too. It's my little things up here along with work. But I love being able to take them and go with me to do open houses. They walk neighborhoods with me, and it really is awesome because you can really relate to people. I've ran into other moms. I've ran into moms who actually are trying to start their own businesses, and they're like, how are you doing this? Because I'm trying to do that, but I have kids, and it's nice to incorporate it with them, just start teaching them. Even with your, with the law firm, you have the baby sometimes and you bring him and he's already getting involved, but it really makes the atmosphere, I think, just more, calm and inviting. So I try to just build my business. I've tried to build my business in that realm of not just niching with military and family, with just getting that growth. And yeah. So that's kind of how I started.
No, I think that's great. And you learn so much about the relocation process, which is always stressful. Sometimes it is out of the blue, unexpected. People are moving to areas where they don't have family, they don't have friends. It's just a very stressful process. And I know that you became an expert in that, first with the military families, but then you even moved on to helping corporate professionals with relocation. And so you've been doing that recently, and that's kind of the most recent iteration of Linda Barr Realty, right? That's kind of where you're at right now, is also melding corporate relocation and military relocation. So that has been really interesting. That kind of delves into the next question, which is what it's like to be your client. I mean, you represent everything from military families to first-time homeowners, maybe with small kids, and also corporate families. And so what has it been like to create an atmosphere where you can assist all of these diverse people?
Whether you're, like you said, whether it's a small family, whether it's relocation, whether it's a first-time home buyer, it doesn't matter, or if it's even somebody who's selling. I always kind of do the same thing right at the beginning, is I will sit down, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's in person. I always want to sit down and actually have a face-to-face with the person to really get to know what are their needs and wants. I have had sellers who are like, I'm relocating, I need to move now, right? But I've also had sellers who are like, we're looking to move, we're not in a rush because we want to find something to buy. And then it's like, okay, so those will prompt the next questions. If I can have a base of what's going on, my questions are going to be completely different. If somebody who's wanting to move, who doesn't have a time frame to move, if someone has a time frame to move, or if somebody doesn't, those questions are going to be completely different. And then I can just tailor it from there. As far as buyers, same thing. My first thing with my buyers, again, I'm sitting down, I'm seeing what are they needing. Are they a first-time home buyer? Are they an investor? Are they looking for, hey, we want to start building our rental portfolio. What is the first initial thing so that I can tailor my questions to get them in the right spot? With my buyers, I will always tell them or ask them, are you speaking with a lender? Have you gotten pre-qualified? A lot of agents don't put that out there, as far as they're like, especially when it was it's a buyer's market, what they want to say, they'll say, oh, well, you don't need a pre-approval letter, let's just do it. Well, if you don't have that base of a pre-approval letter, number one, a lot of sellers won't even accept or consider your offer because you don't have that. Another problem we're running into is, what if it's a house that they go ahead and they're like, yeah, we want to put an offer on it. Cool, let's do that. And then the lender comes back and it's not feasible. The numbers don't add up for their budget or for their financial situation. Now you've just given that client false hope on something that could have been completely avoided. So you're already starting out with a negative foot. So I always try to tell my buyers, if you're not talking with a lender, if you know one, awesome. I would reach out to them and please, pass along my information, or let me reach out to them too, because we all need to be on the same page to make the process start going in sync and everybody knows what's going on. If they don't, they're like, oh, hey, I don't know any lenders. Awesome. I have a list of lenders I've worked with who are awesome, and they all specialize in different things. And the great thing about that is you can talk to multiple lenders. So if they have one, I send them, and they're, maybe the program that their company offers isn't really going to fit that client. They have another lender that they can reach out to, so that they're getting double the amount of information to feel, what route can I take? Another thing is, with investors, I always ask, okay, are you hard money loan? Are you an all cash investor? What's your financial situation? I don't need to know the details. I just need to know the initial, so I know which avenue and where we're going. Because some offers, you'll get investors who will send me a property, and if they're financing and I'm like, hey, this property is only accepting cash because it's not going to pass inspection or appraisal, for these loans that you're looking to take out on, we can't even look at it. So that is why I ask those questions, depending on, if they're buying, if they're selling, or investing.
I think that's great. I think the interview process that you do to really sit down and understand what they need, what they want, and then have the follow-up information for them and to set them up for success. I think that's great. And that leads to the training tidbit. You have such a wealth of information, and you just talked about it, kind of how you set your clients up for success by making sure that they have what they need. I'd love for you to share some of this valuable information that you've acquired to the community. And so do you have just a training tidbit that we could all take away?
Yeah, I actually have I think it's a pretty good one for right now, especially in the market that we're in, the amazing market where everyone is screaming at rates. Sellers are freaking out, buyers are freaking out. Like we're seeing, we're not a balanced market, but we're seeing a little bit more inventory, but we're seeing less buyers. So it's kind of where it's not like, 2 years ago where sellers were getting everything under the sun and buyers were just giving it all. We're definitely seeing more negotiating. We're seeing some concessions come back from sellers. We're seeing these things. But the most, or the best thing I think I can say right now is, even if you're a first-time home buyer, it doesn't matter your situation, knowing and understanding about new builds. As what I've seen people, when I bring it up, they're like, "Oh, it's not even in my wheelhouse right now. There's no way." And it's like, actually, if you're really, you said you didn't want to look right now because of rates, but this new build over here is in your price range, and they're doing fixed rates. So if you go with their lender, again, this is something where even if they have a lender, I always tell them, if the builder's incentives are that good where it's getting you into the home that you want, you go and get that quote from that lender and take it back to your lender. You're like, well, my lender's my brother. Okay, cool. We'll take it back to your brother because your brother isn't going to pay for your mortgage. But maybe on some instances, because lenders have to go by the rules of what their company is, right? There's so many different companies. There's so many different programs. But if you take that quote and bring it back, you might have them go, oh, hey, my underwriter over here said we will be able to match it. So it's not necessarily that you have to go with that lender. It's just getting that as another tool for you to utilize so that we can get you in the home that you want. And we're seeing that with new builds. On top of that, they're giving so many incentives right now. Like I had a closing a couple months ago where they actually paid the HOA for 2 years on top of giving them a financial for closing costs or concessions for closing costs. So there's definitely things to negotiate within the new build community. And then another thing I do want to bring up with new builds, because honestly, they do get a lot of traffic and they do get a lot of potential buyers that will go in there who are not represented. So if you are doing that, that's great. But I want you to know, or I want people to know, that the new builds will always tell, or the sales office is always going to tell you don't need an agent, which is great. It's totally true. You could do the transaction without a buyer's agent, but what they're not going to tell you is you're not paying for that buyer's agent. We have to, so we're going to tell you don't need one. But then again, in turn, they're also not going to tell you, hey, you are just a customer to us because we are here to advocate for the builder. We are not going to go over the contract with you. You're going to have to figure it out yourself. Well, they will go over it with you, but they're not going to go and tell you, if you have questions about it, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's just this. Oh yeah, that's just that. They're not going to sit because you legally are a customer, not a client at that point. They already have signed to be an advocate for the seller. So you bringing in a buyer's agent not only is not going to cost you anything, it's also going to give somebody to advocate for you to go through the bullet points, answer those questions, put you in the right direction. For instance, so my sister, who is also a military spouse, lives in California. And when they moved, she was telling me all about this new build because I did a referral for her. So I have agents all across where I can refer. So even if people aren't moving in and out of Colorado, I have a great network all across the US that I can refer to. And we were chatting about it because she had walked into a new build community and again called me on, this is great. And I'm like, okay, well, where was Shanna? And she goes, oh, well, they said I don't need it. So I'm like, okay, well, let me just tell you. So I gave her the thing, and then she was giving me the numbers, and I'm like, okay, well, what about the lot premium? Where's the HOA? And she's like, I think it's all. They said it was all there. It was all in there. And come to find out, once they went back and asked all those questions, they were, oh, well, the lot premium's a $50,000 extra, and then the HOA is like $150 more, and then all these things. So all these questions that she didn't think to ask because they were driving by and just saw they just saw the open house or the new build. and walked in. So even though she has an agent that she could have called, she still called me to talk to me about it because they were telling her she didn't need it. And then not understanding like, hey, there's all these other questions that you need to ask to make sure that you're getting exactly what you're signing and what's included and not.
No, I think that's such a great tidbit because we're obviously always advocating the same thing with regards to insurance agents. After a wreck, same thing. There's no harm or foul to have a personal injury attorney just to assist you in the beginning to see if it's a good fit. And so I think that's great that you're advocating for someone to be there. Have a real estate agent be there. It's not going to be any cost, but just let someone be there to ask the questions. And so I think that's great that you have found information about these new builds, and it's a great area that people can start looking to if they never even thought that they could. That there are really a lot of concessions happening now with regards to new builds. And this is just one example of how you're finding new things every single day. And so that's why I really urge people to go to your YouTube channel and subscribe, because they can learn about all these really great, interesting facts that they should know about going into the process, but also what's new and what's on trend. And so if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Definitely my number, my phone number. You can text me or call me on there. I have an email, which I check every day, my business email. And even if you send me a message, I have a Facebook business page. YouTube is a main source where I post all those videos that we talk about. I do all my tours. I do everything from home tours to information, knowing what your NAR status is. That's a whole other thing for realtors. It's another part of education to just keep them on the ethical side of things. And to be honest, like not all agents have it, and not all people understand or clients understand what it even means and why it's important that you should use someone who has it. So I just put up all kinds of information. It's all real estate related. Sometimes you'll see the kids in there, so I guess it's mom related too. But yeah, I mean, message me on those. I'm on TikTok. That's actually where my biggest following is. So I do a lot of stuff on TikTok. And I also do like fun stuff. I do skits, I do fun stuff like that because, honestly, real estate is not like, it's fun, but at the same time, it's not like, it's like, when you're sitting there reading, your books, your neurological books, and you're reading like contracts, or you're reading like, all these documents. It's like, okay, sometimes my brain goes into, okay, wow, really? Okay. So you got to make fun of it. You got to make light of it. That's just my personality. So I think that's
fantastic. Yeah, and we'll include all of your contact information that you talked about. So the best way to reach you is obviously by phone, email, and then subscribing to the various channels and social media. And so we'll include all of that into the show notes. There's a lot of great ways to get in touch with you. And we definitely urge people to kind of just recurrently check in all the new and exciting information that you have to share. And so thank you, Linda, for being here. We really appreciate you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.